Welcome to Bunnyfish Crafts. I'm your host Heather, known as Bunnyfish on Ravelry, Plurk, Instagram, and YouTube. Today is Monday, the 10th of February, 2014, and this is episode 65. It's a blizzard hoe for me. Grab some sticks and string and come sit with me. The Knitty Knit-Along is going on, and I've still not cast on my project, but we do have one finished object so far, so awesome. There hasn't been a lot of chatter in the chatter thread, so if you're thinking about joining and just haven't because it's the Ravelinix, totally cool. Maybe pop in there and say, hey, I'd like to do this maybe if I have time after I finish my projects. Because I'm probably not starting mine until next month. We'll see. It goes from the beginning of February to the end of March. Any knitty pattern, it can be something that you started before February, as long as you had 50% or more to complete. Finished objects. I'm really excited about the finished objects. The first one that I'm going to show you is called, it's Blizzard Hoe for Me, and it is my pattern. I published it on Friday. That is what the show title refers to, not the weather, because it's cold today, but in the next 10 days we're supposed to get up into the 50s, which is pretty warm for right now, I feel. Anyway, it's Blizzard Hoe for Me. That is the name of the pattern that I knit these long green socks out of. And here's the shorter version. There are options with this sock. They can be calf length or knee length or shorter. Of course, you can always make socks shorter. There is calf shaping on the back of the pattern, which could start as early as down here. There are two different cuff length options. So on this sock, have a short cuff. On this sock, you have a longer cuff. And there are two options for how long the toe is before you start your pattern. So lots of options. My test knitters were fantastic. There's nothing quite like having test knitters to make you realize that you autopilot a lot. I wrote the pattern out in my notebook. I designed in my notebook, and that's grid. So the front part I write what I'm doing list-wise every day, and the back part I draw out sketches for patterns and write down pattern notes and stuff. Going from notebook to typed up, I forgot some things. Luckily, I had some awesome test knitters, so I'm pretty sure the kinks are all worked out. Thank you, Sharon, Jerry, Andrea, Jenna, and Lisa for test knitting those socks for me. I really appreciate it. Also, it's a paid for pattern. If you purchase the pattern and make it before the end of May, you can enter it into the 716 Knit Daria Club knit-along thread. And there are 3 prizes. All of them are for 716 knit yarn. So go check that out if you're interested. You don't have to use 716 knit yarn, just the patterns for the club every month. So I designed the first month. There will be 2 more patterns. I did actually finish these socks this week. It was one of the things I was working on last week. So that's my first finished object. My second finished object is the Owly Sleep Sack by Teresa Cole. I used Lion Brand Pound of Love in white and US 7 4.5 millimeter needles. And this is where I was last week. I had this much done. And I finished the rest. Did a lot of it while I was editing. I think this is what I worked on when I was editing. Maybe not. But yeah, it's done. It's completed. I will put it in the pile of things that I will give my cousin when I see her next, or send off to her if I don't see her in a while. Because she is pregnant with her first baby, a little girl. I'm pretty excited about it. So, in the pile. Made 2 of these last year. Pattern is well written. It's very quick and easy. It's just got this cute little detail at the top and then stockinette forever until you decrease at the bottom. It's easy. I recommend it if you need a quick baby gift, and I think sleep sacks are brilliant for babies. So much easier than swaddling them in a blanket and having the blanket on that. That's what blankets do when babies squirm. Works in progress. This is kind of like a halfway between work in progress and finished object because I finished spinning the braid of faux Angora. So this is 4 ounces of faux Angora from Spartacus Dyes in the colorway Pink Ladies. But it's not a finished object because it's not plied. It's I'm not leaving it as a single. I am going to spin a different fiber, a 100% merino that I have in my stash, and then ply them together. So that braid is complete, but the spinning project is not complete. I started another spinning project. I did get this done before the games started, so that I didn't have that spinning project going. So I didn't have that part of the spinning project going. Obviously the project is still going since it's not finished. I started the Gotland from Two Sisters Stringworks. And this is one of my Revelinic projects. My goal is to do a 2-ply fingering weight and have it finished and everything during the Revelinics. So this is what I have so far. This is this week's progress since Friday. I am on track. I decided if I could spin a third of it every 4 days, it would be great. I'd be done on time. So this is a third of my fiber, and it is spinning pretty perfectly for what I want. So there's it plied back on itself, which is obviously not how it's going to look when I ply it, but here we go. I'm winding it off onto skewers because my Lazy Kate is a Coke box. That's my boyfriend's soda of choice. I don't drink soda, so I don't have can boxes laying around. But the skewers fit nicely in there, and I could probably fit a third of the fiber on the spindle at a time, but that changes the weight of the spindle, and since I'm going for a thin-ish single, I want to keep the weight low. So this is the first third. I might start the second third tonight, which would put me ahead of schedule for my goal, which would be awesome. So that might happen tonight, but we'll see, because the podcast, side tangent, the podcast takes a lot of time. Like my Mondays, I always think I'm going to get so much done. My list for what I'm going to do on Monday is always super, super long. And then I sink time into the podcast and I only have time to finish half of my list. Something that I had on the needles last week. Dirk the dragon. It actually looks like it's going to be something when it grows up. So this is the doll. And he's pretty big. Or she. Who knows? I'm making this for Jenna of 716 Knit. She supplied the yarn. So the body, the main color is a version of Everybody Wants Petrified Hamsters and They're Never Satisfied with Them, or something like that. I can't remember. I could look up the name, but I'm not going to. So hamsters, that's the main color. And this is neon green, and this is bear for the skin. And Lisa from the Knit Two Together podcast supplied me with these eyes, which is great because I didn't have safety eyes. She was like, I have some, I'll throw them in the mail, because she had a lot. And she sent me several pairs, so I could make more toys and give them eyes. Isn't he cute? He has one arm so far. Here's the other arm, very start. As you can see, it's not a lot. He's so cute. I don't want to give him up, but I will, because what am I going to do with the dragon toy? Gabriel would steal it. And I'm not willing to put in this much work for a toy for Gabriel. because Molly would probably eat it. Molly is my dog. Gabriel is my son. In case you haven't been here before, because maybe you're new. And awesome. That's great. Also started last week was the Gramps Cardi by Kate Oates, which was given to me by Jerry. Thank you. Gabriel is super excited that I'm making him a sweater. He asks me every day if I've worked on his sweater, and I haven't. I worked on it one day last week for not very long, but I did make some progress. So this is made using Knit Picks Swish DK in the Rainforest Heather colorway. And I used US6, which is 4.0 millimeters for the ribbing, which I had done last week. I was on the ribbing last week. And then this cable bit starts on a US7, there you go, which is 4.5 millimeters. I'm just at the very beginning of the cables. So I really need to start working on this if I want it done by the end of the month, but really it's going to be all Ravelinics until I get my projects done. And now 2 new things, because I didn't have enough going on. I'm doing a test knit. See, is the bottom of the feet. I'm making these for my sister. She doesn't care if they stripe in the if the stripes match, which is good because I'm pulling from the inside of both of these 50-gram skeins, and they're striping in the opposite direction. See, if you look at these red stripes, that's basically the beginning of the color repeat, and then it goes a lot. Then it goes that way for the color repeat. The yarn is Drops Fable in the color 911. They might not match even if I had tried to match up the stripes though, because they're 2 different dye lots. Doesn't bother me. Probably won't bother my sister. She probably doesn't even know what that means. So this is where I am. I am in the gusset. Hopefully these will be done next week. Well, they will be because I have a deadline for the test knit, and it's next week. US size 1 2.25 millimeter needles. I also started my one of my other Ravelinic projects, which is the Age of Breath and Steam by Orange Flower Yarn. I'm using 716 Knit, 716 Boss in the color Spotty Rainbow. It's DK weight, and as you can see, I am I'm through the first 3 colors of the rainbow. Here it is. I am halfway done with a row because I wanted to show you. I'm working it on straights. I could have put together my interchangeables for the size 8, which is 5.0 millimeters, but I haven't yet. I still might do that later, but this is kind of what it looks like. You can see how it's going along. I changed the pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I changed the pattern just a smidge because for this section right here, going into the next garter lace section would have had blue and green, and I just thought that would look kind of sloppy to have the color change in this part, so I just did an extra 2 extra rows of stockinette to bring it to the green. And the color change happened really nicely right at the beginning of the garter row. Can't even tell. So I like it. I really love how there's purple splotches in the green. That's what makes it the spotty rainbow instead of just a rainbow. Love this yarn. Love Jenna's yarn. Just in general, the sock and the boss. Those are the bases that I've tried, and I really like them, and how can you not like this color? I'm ahead of schedule on this project. My plan was to do 1 color every 2 days, and I am 3 colors through. Today is day 4, so this is 6 days worth of progress, and That's good though, because this morning when I was working on it, I was like, oh, this is taking forever to get through a row. That is why I made this a Ravelinic project. Stockinette is not difficult. I find it difficult because I find it boring. So I do a row and then I go and do something else, something more interesting. And then I come back and I do a row. So it's one row at a time. It's not growing. I mean, it is kind of growing kind of fast. But stockinette for me doesn't grow as quickly as, say, something with cables or lace or something. It's a really good first thing in the morning project, though, because I don't have to think about it. And first thing in the morning is sometimes as early as 5 in the morning. No reason. I don't need to be up at 5 in the morning. It just happens. Crazy. We're going to do Hexapuffs next before sock yarn blanket because they are closer. I am missing a buff. I had 8 this week. There it is. So 8 this week, which brings my total up to 21. Made zipper lexicon socks out of this. Mountain Colors Crazy Foot. And I don't remember what that colorway is. This is, I didn't tell you the specs on this yarn when I was showing you my socks. So this is 716 sock, 716 knit in the Daria prototype colorway. This is Knit Picks Stroll Tonal in springtime, and I made a pair of socks for somebody using a Hunter Hammerson pattern. I can't remember the name of the pattern. This is Red Heart and Soul in Green Envy, and I made myself a pair of socks in the plain out of those. This is Serenity sock, Deborah Norville collection in Paprika, and I made Mara a pair of monkey socks by Cookie A out of that. This is Serenity sock in Chili, and I made 2 pairs of socks for my mom using this. One vanilla and I don't remember the other pattern. Made my sister a pair of socks using this, and I called them the Dragon Scale socks. I think this was the second pair of socks that I made. This was the first. Well, one of the pairs of socks was the first, and I'm pretty sure this is the second. Or maybe it's the third. Maybe I made the second pair of socks for Steve. Can't remember. And this is Knit Picks Simple Stripes in an unknown colorway. And I made Wrigley socks for Steve's mom out of those. These Hexapuffs are fun. They're almost as good as the miter squares. So let's see how the blanket is coming. I'm going to need to get more stitch markers. Didn't even think about how many stitch markers I was going to need to show you my progress every week, since I'm planning for the Ravelinics to do 3 squares a day. So far I've been keeping up. I haven't done my squares for today. I've done my other 2 projects for today, but not my squares, but it's still early. It's not even noon yet. This is yarn from the ZK. I didn't do any fancy squares this week. Also yarn from the ZK. This is yarn from the ZK that I got in the mini skein swap, and my partner was Leslie Pixie Knits, who does the Knitting Game podcast. ZK yarn. This is actually dyed with Kool-Aid on Knit Picks Bear, Stroll Bear. I like when people put tags on things. This is from the ZK. And I'm pretty sure that all the yarn that I haven't specified who it's from came from Kelly at the ZK, but maybe not. Don't quote me on that because I could be wrong. Except this square came from Mary. And those are from the ZK as well. So I've been making lots of progress. I am definitely keeping up with my goal. I'm going to need to get more stitch markers though. I have something new. Spoiler alert, if you're in the Daria Club and you haven't received your package, go check your mailbox because you should have by now, but maybe you haven't. Maybe your post system is really weird. I'm going to show what I got. So this is the first club shipment. This is the yarn. It's 716 knit, 716 sock, and My Hormones Don't Rage. And it's a self-striping. It's similar to the prototype, but less Green Bay Packers. So came with an awesome button, which I'm super excited that I can now put on my owl. And this little stitch marker. Knitting needles and yarn. Yeah. I don't know if I believe that this is yarn or if it's like, I don't know. I don't know what I think that little ball is. It doesn't quite look like yarn. But I'm going to decide that that's probably what it's meant to be. If not, Jenna, you can tell me what it's supposed to be. And I'll be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And this is the extra that came this month. Not just the pin. Oh no, there's another extra. And if you watch Daria, you're going to be a little bit jealous. It is a notebook with the Six Sad World photo on it. So it's got this great little elastic thing, which Mara finds endlessly fascinating. So I need to hide this notebook so she doesn't break my elastic. And then wide rule pages. It's perfect. I love it. Excellent club shipment. Again, participate in the knit along without having the club yarn. You just need to have the club pattern for the month. And you can do any one of the 3 patterns as many times as you want. Or all 3 of the club patterns as many times as you want to enter. You can do multiple entries. All of the rules are in the thread. Go look at the thread. It'll be linked in the show notes somewhere, probably near the top. I'm still reading The Diviners. I actually started reading it again. I will definitely finish it by next week because I'm super close to the end. It's not so scary anymore. It's still horrifying, but it's not scary. And everything's starting to come together. It's getting close to the end. I'm excited to read it, but I'm more excited to finish it so that I can start a new book because my library books need to go back to the library soon-ish. My lists today are 3 podcasts. Chaotic and Crafty with Amber. She is a crocheter at the beginning, but she takes up knitting a little bit, and it starts off as a audio podcast and then moves into video. She updates kind of sporadically, but she has helpful tips, so it's worth checking out if you crochet or if you like to hear about crochet. There's also knitting content though. Stash Less with Karen. She has her video on YouTube. It's still very new, but I really enjoy it. The concept is she has a large stash and she doesn't want to have more stash coming in. So her rule is if she brings in yarn, she has to get rid of yarn. But mostly she just wants to work from her stash and get rid of yarn that way instead of having to donate yarn. It's really good. She started her first podcast on her birthday, which was kind of cool. So she'll always remember her podiversary. Go check it out. Links in the show notes. And the third one, for a lot of viewers, will probably be like, really? That's your number 3? The third one is The Knit Girls with Laura and Leslie. And I'm putting it on the list because I just finished watching all the episodes. And I didn't start watching the episodes before before the beginning of this year. I'm not sure exactly when I started watching them, sometime in January. There are a lot of episodes. They've been podcasting for years. And they're like the big name podcast duo. So, but maybe you're like me and you didn't get in to podcasts through them, or Diane of Knittables, or Steve of Dramatic Knits, or people who've been around for a long time, and you're looking for a new podcast. Laura and Leslie, they knit, and Leslie crochets a very little bit, and they both spin a lot. They have a lot of spinning tutorials. There is a lot to learn by watching them, and also they're very entertaining. Anyway, I hope you made something fantastic with your sticks and string, and I will see you next week. Bye!